Hi everyone, I'm Liz Brown Swanson and welcome to Around the Peninsula. Today I'm here at Trump National for the Palos Verdes Women's Club annual Books and Authors Luncheon. They have 6 distinguished authors here, including some best-selling authors like the former prosecutor in the O.J. Simpson trial. Marcia Clark is here sharing her story. Let's check it out.
Wonderful lunch here. We have 6 great authors that are going to be very interesting. They'll speak about their books. And we're very excited. It's going to be a huge success, I know. And we have authors from starting with a 12-year-old to older authors. So it's a fun time. It's a good event, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Palos Verdes Women's Club, for inviting me here today. Well, I guess most of you know my name is Jack Witherspoon. I'm 12 years old and the author of the cookbook Twisted Up. It may seem a little strange to you that someone like me, being so young and all, would have written a cookbook. Well, let me tell you a little bit about what happened so you'll understand it more. I'm happy to be standing here feeling strong and healthy. For in my life, I've had leukemia 3 separate times. I was first diagnosed at the age of 2. To be cured, I went through almost 3.5 years of treatment. Then 1 year after treatment ended, when I was 6, I relapsed again. I had 2.5 more years of treatment. It was during this relapse that I discovered cooking. I watched the Food Network all the time, and when I'd get home from the hospital, I'd cook the recipes with my mom. That's how I'd always change them around a little, though. That's how I came up with my catchphrase, Twisted Up. By the time I was only 8 years old, I was well on my way to becoming a seasoned veteran in the kitchen. I had developed complete banquet menus and organized charity events in which I cooked for hundreds of people. Over the last 5 years, I have been interviewed by the media numerous times by familiar anchors such as Colleen Williams and Laura Diaz. I've also been a guest on national TV too, on TV shows such as The Tonight Show and The Bonnie Hunt Show. And most recently, last May, I was on The Rachel Ray Show. My enthusiasm for cooking has brought me a lot of attention. I've raised over close to $150,000 for pediatric leukemia research. I have my own endowment at Miller Children's Hospital in Long Beach, and I'm the Beck Strands Cancer Foundation's pediatric spokesperson. And, I can't forget about my wonderful book. It's filled with family-friendly recipes that are all prepared and tested by me, of course. Part of my cookbook will also be donated to cancer research. Cooking has given me great joy. It is my passion and my purpose in life. When my book had just finished and had been sent off to the printers, the unthinkable happened again. I had another relapse. I was 11. This was the biggest challenge of all. I was going to need a bone marrow transplant. That was almost 1.5 years ago now. It was a long, hard recovery, but today I'm just about back to my old self. I'm in school, playing sports, and seeing my friends. I had to postpone my book launch because of my relapse, but I'm glad to have it all behind me now. Getting leukemia 3 times is an awful thing to have happen, but I try to look at the positives that have come from it. When I think about it, cooking has changed my life just as much as leukemia has, but in a good way. Through my cooking, I've raised money and awareness for childhood cancer, and cooking has opened a marvelous world up to me. Food is something we all share with one another. It is truly the universal language. I hope my story will inspire you and help you get through whatever challenges that may happen in your life. And maybe it will help you enjoy your family and friends a little more, enjoy sharing a meal together more, and maybe it will even inspire you to want to try cooking more too. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today.
Our next author is E.G. Ryan, and E.G. is a beautiful lady, not E.G. like you think maybe it wasn't a lady. She's the author and illustrator of the popular E.G. Ryan World of Books. And the series includes books that we have all of them out front there. The Dreamies, Moon Balloons, Spunky the Dog, Foxy the Cat, Collects It, The Good Goodies, Spot Smile, The Green Thumbs, and The Bully Bites. E.G. was born and raised in Southern California. She graduated from UC Riverside with an undergraduate degree in biology. She has a master's degree in national security studies and an MBA in international business. Isn't it too bad she's so undereducated? E.G. Ryan is a member of the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. She continues to live in California with her husband, her 3 children, and their 2 dogs. I don't know when she finds time to write. Her children and their animal friends are the inspiration behind her work. She's so grateful to have the opportunity to be in the presence of those loving people, and it's their sense of wonder that amazes her every day. And I'm happy to present to you E.G. Ryan.
Hi. First of all, thank you, Peter Women's Club. Woo! And Mary Sable and my friend Amy Barber, wherever you are. Is that your last name still? Oh, there? Oh, there you are. For inviting me here today. Can you hear right there? Sorry. I'm so tall. As you know, I'm E.G. Ryan, and I'm the author and illustrator of a series of children's books, which I read throughout Palos Verdes, the Palos Verdes schools, the LA schools. We're going to Washington, D.C. in May. And the books all, I mean, you've probably all seen them now, but they have really powerful messages for children. And they don't preach to kids, but they tell a story that the kids come up with the conclusion on their own, and they remember them. Like my 4-year-old, she'd look at that and say, oh, you're all eating bad foodies. So right now the dessert. And they understand, they get the messages. So their messages about kindness and not watching so much TV, going outside playing, being nice, not judging and not bullying, and just good messages for children. And I guarantee you, if you take a look at the books, or a child in your life, it will become their favorite book. A woman from Arizona, and it makes me almost cry. She sent me an email about her son who, he had gotten a copy of The Dream Leader from someone, and he has all sorts of seizures, and he woke up from a seizure. All he wanted was his E.G. Ryan book. And I went and sold him the whole set of books because it just moved me so much. But I have, teachers calling me from New Jersey and Arizona, and their kids love the books because it really changes kids. And it's changed my kids. It's changed friends of my children's. They go to sleep now. They're not scared to go to sleep. So anyway, take a look at the book, enjoy them, and enjoy your dessert. Thanks. Oh, and I have a website. It's egryan.com if you want to. You can actually see some of the books on YouTube, so you can watch them on YouTube. So, thank you.
So we'll move on now with our authors, and we have our other gentleman with us today. We have Ivan G. Goldman. Ivan is a New York Times best-selling author. His 4th novel, called Isaac, A Modern Fable, was published by Permanent Press in April 2012 and received a star review in Booklist. His novel, The Bar Fighter, was nominated as a 2009 notable book by the American Library Association. Mr. Goldman is a Fulbright scholar. His writing has appeared in the Columbia Journalism Review, The Reader, The Nation, the National Reviews, Rolling Stones, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. Mr. Goldman lives in Los Angeles, and we're happy to have him with us today. Hey, Ivan. Pay attention to that other microphone.
You want the big one? Okay.
You can hear me, good. Thank you very much for inviting me to this lovely event. It really is nice. It's all charity, and it's terrific, and I'm flattered. Isaac, A Modern Fable. I want to see what time it is so I don't run forever. I think all of us, at some point or other, I know certainly I was, maybe I'm wrong about everybody, but think about this, the biblical story of Abraham and Isaac, trying to figure out, I know that theologians argue about it, what is the message in that story? To me, it's always been, frankly, sort of a dark story. Most theologians would disagree. They see positive elements to the story, and certainly there are some. Anyway, it had always been in the back of my mind, and at one point it hit me, now wait a minute, Isaac was saved at the last minute by God, and what if he just kept on living because he was saved and never grew old? And that's the premise of the book. So Isaac just keeps living, but he drifts around the world because if he stayed in one place, people would notice that he's never getting old. So he sees quite a bit of life and quite a bit of different situations, but he has no idea why he's this special person who never ages. He also knows that someday he will die, that things can kill him. He's not Superman. You can, if he loses a finger, it's not going to grow back. So he's seen quite a bit in his life, and we meet him in Los Angeles, actually at the LA Farmers Market. That's where it starts. He meets a woman called Ruth, who is teaching in the Cal State system. And some of the book actually occurs here in Palos Verdes, I can tell you. Ruth takes over half of the book, but I'm not going to talk that much about her. But the thing about Isaac is he doesn't know any more than the rest of us. Some people think they know why we exist, and they might know, but maybe they're mistaken. Why we exist, what we're supposed to do, what's it all about. We all have these questions, and maybe sometimes we get them answered. But he doesn't know, and he's not sure about the nature of this Creator who saved him. He's not sure about the nature of good, evil, sin, redemption. But we learn something in this book about the power of love. And naturally, something happens here in Los Angeles, I don't want to ruin the book for you, that speeds everything up for Isaac. So Ruth is in danger, and he is in danger, and he's got to try to figure out now what to do. Because for 4,000 years he learned that he really couldn't be in love with any woman because she would grow old and he wouldn't, and he tried it, and the women don't like it. So that's the premise. I don't want to ruin it for you in terms of what happens, but if that interests you, I'll see you over at the table later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan. I really enjoy biblical novels, and that sounds like a fun one to read. And I can understand why no woman would want to be married to this guy who never gets home. That would be depressing, wouldn't it? Okay, next we have Lori Jones. Lori had had a 16-year modeling career from 1981 through 1997, and she doesn't look old enough to have been doing that in 1981. Her career began after graduating from the Barbizon School of Modeling, and she signed with the Wilhelmina Agency in Los Angeles. Her bookings included runway, prints for magazines, catalogs, TV commercials, and an album cover. She flew to Milan, Italy in 1982 and ended up living and modeling in Milan, in Germany, and in Spain over the next 5 years.
She was always interested in writing and kept journals for her experiences and all of her extensive travels throughout Europe and Africa and the many people she met along the way. And she's written a book called Growing Up Beautiful. It's a fictional account of how 3 young models grow up in that foreign world of fashion in the 1980s. So we're happy to welcome Lori Jones.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank the Palos Verdes Women's Club for having me. It's so fun here. I'm meeting such great people here. Can you hear me? I think what I'd like to do is give you a little insight into what the world of modeling was like before I go into my characters. So I'll give you 2 samples of what I experienced. When you see something in the magazine or when you see it on a commercial, you don't always know why that got to be there. So I'd like to give you a little example. When I was in, I think this was when I was in Spain, they had hired me for a commercial for Ultra Bright. And this was in February in the Mediterranean. February, Mediterranean. Okay, we know how cold water is. Think of it with ice cubes. So it was going to be me and a guy, and they were going to put us in wetsuits and toss us over the side, and we were going to water ski, and that was going to be our Ultra Bright commercial. Well, he got a full wetsuit. I did not. I got a little mini wetsuit, and they zipped it down the front. Because you're the pretty one. We're going to put you in that water, and you're just going to smile away. They put me in that water, and I don't know if you've ever been in an experience where you can't breathe. I was like, it was so cold. And meanwhile, he's just like, okay, let's go, we're ready to go. And I'm trying to catch my breath. And the whole time I'm thinking, get me back on the boat, get me back on the boat. So they take us next to each other, and he had to have a single ski because he was so gorgeous. And he was just, I'm a 1 ski. Well, I only do 2. So immediately, we fell. I triple in the water. I do a somersault, I go down deep, I come up, I'm soaking wet. And by this time, I think I'm probably in hypothermia. I'm freezing, I'm not even purple, I'm white. I'm like, can I go in the boat? Can I go in the boat? Just for a second. And I thought, you know what? I don't care if I never work another day in my life. I don't care if they kick me out of this country. I am not getting back in this water. So they pulled me out, and I was freezing, so they gave me brandy. I'm still on the shoot, by the way. They gave me brandy. And after a while, I did warm up a little bit, but they're like, we can't put her back in the water. She might die. So what they did is they went ahead and put us on that back step on boats. And so that's what they should have done in the first place. And they tied our, I forget what these are called, but when you water ski, they tied these rods up to the front. And so we had the bounce of the boat, and it turned out great. And I've seen it on TV back then, and it looked fabulous. But nobody knows, again, what we go through. And now a little bit of an embarrassing story is that when I was in Germany, because they'll fly you, they book you in one country and they'll fly you to another one. This was a great day. We were like Heidi wear, so we had our stockings on and we had our little skirts on and our vests and we had all the nice little embroidery over it. And it went great. It was a great shoot because we have a lot of great shoots. And then it's time for lunch. And they bring us in, and this is Germany, and so there's this huge table laid out, and they've got cold cuts and salamis and cheeses and breads, and it's, I'm not much of a meat eater, so I'm going to stick with the cheese and the bread. So there's this one cheese there, and they have it in this beautiful little container. And I just start piling it on that bread, because the bread is wonderful. And piling it on and piling it on. I thought, nobody's touching this cheese. This is like kind of embarrassing, but it's so good, and I don't like the meat. So I almost finished the last of it. And the woman who's in charge of the photo shoot comes up to me, and she's like, are you sure you want to eat all that? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm really hungry. She goes, you know that's butter, don't you? I was like, this is the best butter I've ever had. So these are the things that go on behind the scenes that you don't always see. One little fast one as far as time as well, because the couture you see on the runways during the day, well, to do photography for that is at night. So my call time was at midnight, and I think we started about 2 and finished about 5 in the morning. So again, you see these photographs, and you don't really know, has that woman been up all night? Has that woman just gone to water that's like 36 degrees? So again, next time, I invite you, next time you look at a photograph or see a commercial, kind of wonder what might have gone on behind the back of that. Back to the book. The book does place in the 1980s. This is before the internet. This is before cell phone. So my 3 girls, we have to keep in mind, we're thinking more Marsha Brady instead of Kim Kardashian. They're very naive young ladies. Now, Casey is kind of my catch-all girl. She gets a lot of the things that can happen to a model over there because, again, they're 16, 17, 18. They have no family, they have no friends, and they're getting thrown in this world where we're at discos every night. And quite honestly, they call them the playboys. That's just what they're called. The young playboys, older playboys, but they invite you out. So you can be, out every night, drinking, dancing, and then you have to get up in the morning and you have interviews and you have jobs or you don't get jobs or you gain weight. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So Casey's my catch-all character, and she goes through quite a few things. Then I have my Star character. Now Star's my tough, feisty girl from New York. She comes from a very, very, I don't want to say bad neighborhood, but she's working as a waitress. She's got an alcoholic mother, no father, no education, nothing to really ever get her ahead in the world except for her face. And that's only going to last a few years. So she goes over there a little desperate. Immediately right away, she gets into it with the agent, which means she's kind of out on her own a little bit. And so we'll follow her story along. Then there's my third girl. My third girl is Joanne. She has parents who have basically, since the time she was born, have planned everything out from her. Everything. From sports to the school, even to the career that she doesn't want. So she has this little opportunity that she can go model for the summer. Her parents do not want her to go, but she decides, I'm going to take this chance on independence. And of course, everything that can go wrong, goes wrong. And she's just about to leave when she meets a very handsome photographer. And it's the start of her love story. So that's a little background on my girls. So if you've ever really wondered what goes on behind the pages, what goes on behind the commercials, you might want to check it out. So thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me.
Next we have Kathy Lubinsky Phillips. She spent over 25 years in the newspaper industry. She's another one of those who doesn't look old enough to have done all that. And she has plenty of scars from dueling to show for it, with pesky editors that she had to deal with. She survived with her sanity relatively intact and continued writing for pleasure. Her debut novel, Trashy Chic, is out from Vantage Point Publishers. She's it's the first in a series of books featuring a reporter, and it's a New York Times bestseller.
It is?
You didn't know that? Well, I'm glad I could tell you that. I'm glad we could bring you that good news. The book is a perfect humor-to-heart ratio, and they've called it Fast and Funny. She's doing a follow-up book, Snarky Park. Is that out already? Which is already? February. So you watch for her new book because it will be out soon. And I'm very happy to present to you Kathy Lubinsky.
Hey, that's New York Times bestseller, Kathy Lubinsky. Thank you very much for inviting me, and let's give the ladies a big hand for this great event. Very nice. I was in journalism for 25 years, as the lovely lady said, Jane, and it was an interesting ride. I was with the New York Daily News for a short time. My last job was at the Union Tribune in San Diego. And unfortunately, I was far enough along in my career to see what is the beginning of the end of newspapers. I don't know if any of you read newspapers, but they're going downhill. People are going to the internet and TV for their news. And I just want to say that all of you who started the trend to internet news, I hope your congressman screws you, because you will not get the news on the internet that he's doing it. That said, I hope that woke everybody up. I have a lot of stories about celebrities. That was my main job for years. I was an entertainment editor. I've interviewed everybody from Jimmy Stewart. I feel like I have to bow my head for Jimmy Stewart. Sarah, the Duchess of York, and everybody in between. Goldie Hawn, Brooke Shields. It was a lot of fun. But my last job at the Union Tribune was as a lifestyle writer. I wrote a lot about dishwashers, the newest color for the year in interior design. And that was when things started going downhill for newspapers. Can you all hear me? I have a big mouth, but I want to make sure.
Just keep it close to the mic.
And I started getting angry about what was happening. I got into newspapers never thinking that I would lose my job, that this was a job I could get laid off from. And to see what's happening, the romance of newspapers, the integrity of newspapers is basically gone. It's all about bean counting. So as I started getting angry, I started thinking, you know, somebody should write something about it from the trenches, which is where I was. But at the same time, I didn't want it to be serious because I love making people laugh. And if you don't know that, okay, leave. So a lot of weird things happen in any job. It doesn't mean just newspapers, but in any job, you know, and you think, God, that is so strange. One day I was at work at the lifestyle job, and a guy called, and he said, my friend and I are thinking about inventing something, and we want to run it by you because you're a writer about these things, and see if you think it would sell. If you think it'll sell, we'll go ahead and invent it. Okay. So we want to invent a toilet seat that will go up and down when you whistle. And I said, holy cow, would I write about that? That would be great. That is really funny. I never heard from him again. I don't know if he did it or not. So I thought, well, why can't I take things like that and tie that in to my anger at what's happening? So the result was Trashy Chic. A lot of people call it Trashy Chick and they think it's me. And they're right to a certain extent, but it's Trashy Chic, and it's sort of a play on Shabby Chic. Because the reporter, my main character, Bertie Mallowan, Bertie was my dog's name, he died, and Mallowan was Agatha Christie's second husband's name. So that's my homage to Agatha Christie. She interviews an entrepreneur, a maker of luxury items for rich people. And he's a multimillionaire and he lives in Bel Air. Hi, Marcia. And not that you live there, but we all know that connection. And he makes things that are rare. There aren't a lot of them, so he can charge a lot of money. And rich people, being jaded, they always want what they don't have. So he makes things like note paper, stationery, made out of the recycled cereal boxes of Tibetan monks. So there aren't a lot of those. They like Cheerios, by the way. He makes the monogrammed airbags for the crash with panache. So this is the kind of guy that she's interviewed, and 2 days after she talks to him, he's murdered. Well, Bertie is basically me. So she sort of stumbles around trying to get into the story, and because she's interviewed this guy right before he's died, murdered, and he's a big name, he's got, what is going on here? He's got money. So she gets to write a page one story, and she decides that this is going in and out.
It's not you.
Yeah. She decides that she wants to get back into the game, newspaper game. So she decides she's going to investigate this murder on herself. So it goes on and on like that. I mean, you get the basic idea from that. She starts hanging around with the dead guy's family, who are basically very weird. And she's kind of hapless, so things happen to her. So this is the story, and during this I get to put out a lot of my anger, about newspapers. When I worked, I would walk miles a day to avoid editors, because editors were always problems. So I was walking like 2 or 3 miles a day, just, you know, to go around certain glass windows this way, and then you go that way because there's another editor, and then you go this way. And the other thing that I did that I was always kind of sad that I never got called on was they make every computer into like a fortress that you have to have all these passwords to get into. Like anybody cares. Who cares that there's a new dishwasher? But I just decided in my anger that I was going to use as my passwords naughty words and hope that somebody somewhere upstairs would see these. So a lot of times I think I went from doo-doo to wee-wee and that kind of thing. Nobody ever said a word. That made me mad. I was all ready, you know. So anyway, the second book that's coming out is called Snarky Park. It continues the adventures of Birdie. I don't want to say too much about the ending of Trashy Chic because, you know, it's the ending. But Birdie becomes a society columnist, and she investigates an ecology and what's it called? Environmental group, an activist environmental group. So she gets to shovel compost and that kind of stuff in between having adventures. But that's my story. Anybody have any questions? See me outside, and I hope you enjoyed the talk. And yay, Palo Verdes!
Thank you very much, Kathy. I don't know what's happening to the microphone here, but I'll go back there and check in a while, and maybe the same thing that happened with my answer machine at home. I couldn't figure out why it didn't work. My answer machine wasn't working, and I finally found out one of my cats had chewed the cord in half. So maybe that's happened back there. Well, our last, and certainly not last or final, but one of our great authors here today is a familiar name to all of you from back when we all sat glued to the television set watching the O.J. Simpson trial. So we're happy today to have Marcia Clark here with us. She's a former Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney. That's a mouthful. And we all know that if we watched this whole entire trial. And she was the lead prosecutor in the O.J. Simpson murder case. She co-wrote a best-selling nonfiction book about the trial called Without a Doubt, and is a frequent media commentator on legal issues. And she's a special correspondent for Entertainment Tonight. Marcia covers high-profile trials, excuse me, writes a column for the Daily Breeze, and provides legal commentaries for multiple shows on CNN, NBC, and ABC. Her most recent books are titled Guilt by Degrees and Guilt by Association. And we're honored to have Marcia Clark here with us today.
So hi, it's been a while, huh? How you been? What's new? After being in your living rooms for so long, and it probably feels like, boy, this is weird. It's been 18 years. I know how to bring a room down, don't I? So I don't want to take too long because it's already been a really long time. So briefly, I was told that you'd want to know how did I wind up here writing thrillers, murder mysteries. Does that sound right? You want to know? Yeah. Okay, because you could say no and I'll do something else. Okay. So how'd that happen? Actually, it's not as shocking as it might seem, because when I was a kid, and I mean a little kid, I loved murder mysteries from the time I was like, you know, young and it was weird. I was like 5 years old, and I was reading Nancy Drew, and I loved it. And Nancy Drew, we all read, don't we? Right? Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew is 80 years old. Yeah, it's fun. You're welcome. Anyway, so I loved her back then, and even after I cracked the code of Nancy Drew, did you ever realize that every time her dad goes out of town, a case falls in her lap? Yes, I cracked that code, and I still read it, and I loved it. I also noticed, I don't know if you did, that this woman showers and changes every 5 minutes. She was early OCD. It was like I thought it was weird, and then I felt kind of bad. I don't shower and change every 5 minutes, and okay, those are my issues as a child. We won't get into them now. But I wanted to write even then. I really loved murder mysteries. I wanted to write them. What I had was no confidence. I had no courage. Especially as I got older, I thought, you know, I would like to live indoors. And so I wanted to do something that would make me a reliable income. Because indoor plumbing is fun, right? Anyway, so I didn't have the courage to try writing for a living. I didn't really believe in myself, and I didn't do it. So I went on to law school, and you know that part. So then I left the office, and I wound up doing a whole bunch of different things. And after finishing the book, that was the trial book, without a doubt, the collaborator I worked with was wonderful, Teresa Carpenter, fantastic, fantastic writer. And she would have me, the process of writing that book was, I would write chapter after chapter. She said, okay, now I want you to write about this, and now I want you to write about that. And then she'd clean me up. And watching the process of a brilliant writer actually take what I call turning straw into gold. She didn't appreciate the Rumpelstiltskin reference, but you know, I mean, she did that. And it was wonderful to see, and it inspired me even more. And after we were done with the book, I said, you know what? Let's write fiction. I've always wanted to write crime fiction. And she said, no. She said, you can write. You do it yourself. I did not believe in myself. I did not have the courage, once again, had to make a living, had a family to support. So that was fun, never mind. But then I wound up working on a show in Hollywood. It was a one-hour drama called For the People on Lifetime, based on the DA's office, focused on 3 women prosecutors. And I was supposed to be just a legal consultant. And what does that mean? You know, I thought that meant that I would be like Scheherazade. I'd come in and tell war stories, and I'd, you know, flit around the set and go to craft services. You know what craft services is? Yeah. Yes. It's the magic truck that has wonderful foods from around the world all the time. And so I put on a lot of weight anyway. That was the sad part. But the good part was that, you know, popcorn whenever you want it, fresh. And I thought that was all I had to do. But then the executive producer said, you know what, you have a voice. I want you to write. And I said, no. And I had a lot of no's in my life, huh? Anyway, and I said, okay, I'll do one scene. And it was a scene, she said, look, this is really easy. Just write this one scene. It's the prosecutor fighting with the judge. Came to the right place. So I wrote that scene, and boy, that was fun, because of course, the prosecutor won. Won that fight. Yes, it felt really good. And so then she said, okay, now write this scene. One more scene, prosecutor goes into court, whatever, yelling and screaming at the defense attorney, once again. So I did that. So one scene after another, and then it turned into I'd written an act, and then it was the next act. You know, I got totally suckered in, and then I was addicted. I was completely addicted, and I loved it, and it was really fun. She and I went on to create pilots for FX, NBC, VH1, and Lifetime, and now the series of books that I'm writing has been optioned by TNT for a one-hour drama that we're developing. Hopeful, and so that script writing was what gave me the courage to actually decide, you know what, time to do it. You know, I'm not getting any younger. It's time to try it. It's now or never. So I decided I would try and write the book. And what I wanted to do is bring you the world of being a deputy district attorney in Los Angeles County, specifically in the special trials unit, because that unit is unique. Unlike most other prosecutors, and especially in LA, prosecutors pick up their cases on the way to court. They don't do any investigation. They pick up the case from the cop. It's already done. You go to the court, you pick your jury, etc. In special trials, not so. Special trials was a small unit when I was there. And at the time I was in the unit, it was just 4 older guys that picked up all the high-profile, most complex cases. So all of the most notorious stuff that you hear about in Los Angeles was handled usually by special trials. Menendez Brothers, Bob's Big Boy, Hillside Strangler, Bonin, you know, and that football player guy. Anyway. So I really wanted to be in special trials. I got into special trials. I was the first woman in the unit. So that was really fun because they, you know, call me a lawyerette. It was cute. That's fun. Yeah. Anyway. And I wanted to deliver that experience because in special trials, you pick up the case the day the body is found. And you work with the detectives very closely. You're out in the scene, you're at the crime scene, you go into, you beat the witnesses out where you find them. Sometimes that's at a fire hydrant at high noon because they don't really have a house. It's an amazing experience, and you go all over LA County. That's such a unique, rich experience, and the tapestry of experiences you have in Los Angeles, which is so large, that you have parts of the county that feel like New York and other parts that feel like the Midwest. It's so, you know, a lot to draw on there. But I really want to deliver to you that world that is real, not the bizarro world of Simpson, but the way it really is. The camaraderie we had with the police officers, and let me tell you, homicide detectives, I know you're going to be shocked, but homicide detectives are some of the funniest people I have ever known. And I mean, the sheriff's homicide detectives have a saying that's up on their wall that says, "Our day begins when your day ends." You can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, you know, you could, but anyway. So that's what they're like, and we would you know, make fun of each other and goof with each other. So I wanted to deliver to you that world that has a lot of fun, a lot of humor. It's also very, you know, dramatic and very tragic and all that, but it's a roller coaster ride. Very exciting stuff, and because of that experience in special trials for 10 years, I got a lot of experience investigating, a lot of experience with forensic evidence, and also, of course, courtroom experience. So I wanted to create that world. So I created the world of Rachel Knight. Rachel Knight, I call her my avatar. Everybody says, is she you? No, she's much better than me. Why would I write about me? So she's really cool, and she lives in the Biltmore Hotel. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's a landmark hotel in downtown Los Angeles, about 100 years old. If you've never been, I really urge you to go. They've preserved it now. It's got Art Deco. It's beautiful. And they have all these framed photographs of the Oscar parties they had there back in the 30s and 40s, and you see these beautiful pictures of, you know, all the stars, you know, like Betty Davis, and yeah, it's fantastic. So she lives there. She lives in a hotel because why? I do not like to cook or do laundry, so I live vicariously through her. And she has her best friend, Detective Bailey Keller, is the only woman in the robbery homicide division, which is the police equivalent of special trials. Robbery homicide and LAPD picks up all the big cases. And then the third of the troika is Tony LaCollette, who is another prosecutor in the special trials unit. These three women are best friends, and they, of course, all have boyfriends. Rachel's boyfriend is, of course, a hottie. I get to make the choice. And he's Lieutenant Graydon Hales, who happens to be Detective Bailey Keller's boss. And, of course, he's rich. He got rich in a very intelligent, believable way, but you know, if you read the book, you'll find out. And Tony has a boyfriend. Her boyfriend is Judge J.D. Morgan. He's actually the only character that's really based on a real person, a judge who was a former detective. Back in the old days, detectives were elevated to the bench very frequently. Now it almost never happens. But the judge that I based J.D. Morgan on was this guy who was a former detective and a wonderful guy who just loved life. He had that twinkle in his eye. You would think a former detective is somebody that the defense attorneys would never want to be in front of. But no, because this judge had such a sense of balance and such a sense of fairness. He just, you know, he said, yeah, I'm not the greatest legal scholar, but I'm going to be giving you, everybody's going to get a fair trial. I have a sense of balance. And he did. Everybody walked out of his court feeling like they'd had a fair trial and a good time, which is not easy to do. So Judge J.D. Morgan is that guy, really fun, cool guy, and that's Tony's boyfriend with whom she has kind of a rubber band relationship. So that's the setup. And then, of course, they solve crimes and murder and mayhem ensue. So the first book is Guilt by Association. That introduces all the characters, but you can read, the next book is Guilt by Degrees. That's the second book in the series. You can read them in any order because the stories are standalone. I catch you up on everything because I myself cannot remember stuff. If I had to read somebody's book and then depend on remembering that for the next one, you know, what happened and then go to the next one and the next and read them in order. I could never do it. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. So you don't have to remember anything. You can read them in any order. The third book, Killer Ambition. In that book, Rachel also goes to trial. I call that the Hollywood book because it involves a kidnapping of a daughter of a mega famous director, Steven Spielberg level director, and she investigates and goes to trial. And I'm working on the fourth book now. I just wanted to make it fast because, you know. So I hope if you have any questions or anything you want to know about, I will be out there signing. I want to thank the Palos Verdes ladies for this wonderful lunch and the beautiful cause that you devote yourself to. This has been a fantastic experience. What a beautiful place. And I'm so honored and so flattered to have been invited here and to present to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Marcia, and thank you to all of our authors. Can we give them a big round?
And congratulations to the Palos Verdes Women's Club for yet another successful event. Their next big fundraiser coming up in May. You want to check out their website at pvwomensclub.org. I'm Liz Brown Swanson. Thanks for watching this edition of Around the Peninsula. See you next time.